No eliminations. Also, when someone says, if someone says the wrong word, you're going to say whatever's the cue next. No one's getting out. No one's getting out. The focus of it, instead of speed, instead of elimination, is going to be about listening and mirroring. Okay? So when someone gives you zip, so if Erin, if you were to send zip to me, zip, I would mirror exactly in my mind, in the second that I receive it, exactly what Erin is doing, and I will say zap to someone else with that exact intention that she gave me. So go, give it to me again. Zip, zap,
Zap. Zip.
zap, zap, zip, zap. Great. All right. So let's stop. So the idea is the person before you is the person you're mirroring, not the general vibe of like what it feels like, and like generally we're leaning forward, but whoever did it, if they jump when they do it, you're going to do exactly what they're doing, the person before you. And it's not about how fast can we go, who's going to get knocked out. It's, can I mirror what is coming? Can I really take in my scene partner, that momentary scene partner? Mirroring exercise, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask Erica for you to kick it off with a zip. Zip. Zap.
Zip. Zap.
Zip. Okay, great. So right there, I want to make sure there was an intention that came to you, right? So it's not about, I'm going to try to break the energy. If you're going zip, then you have to go exactly what they're doing. Really listening to the scene partner before you. You're going to pick it up with zip, someone in a circle. Zip. Zap. Zap.
Zip. Zap.
Zap.
Zip. Zap.
Zap. Zip. Zap.
Zap.
Zip. Zap.
Zap. Zip.
Zap. Zap. Zip. Zap. Zap.
Zip. Zap.
Zap. Zip. Zap. Zap. Zip. Zap.
Zap.
Zip.
Zap.
Zap.
Zip.
Zap.
Zap.
Good, I'm gonna stop you there. So it's really about playing, like, how can I really take the thing that I'm receiving from the person who comes before. What does this have to do with scene study for you? Listening to your partner. Why is that important? Why is that important to listen to your partner? Because speak to what that means for you. I'm not trying to like get a particular response from you, like I'm interested. Yeah.
I think it's important to have that energy. So, like, whatever your partner is giving you, you should give back to them. So, like, if I'm yelling at you, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
sometimes we may have that, but it's important to give and take.
Right. Great.
Maria?
Yeah.
What I liked what you did was, we do the same game, but you slowed it down and you focused on what was being sent and received. So in scene study, what are you saying and receiving from the person, and then the writing context as well?
Yeah.
As directed. It slows it. I'm concentrating on what you're doing.
Focus becomes about the
Yeah.
other person, right? That sounds familiar with the fundamentals of scene study, yeah? The other, focusing on the other person in the scene, right? Yeah?
I was just saying,
Yeah.
reacting truthfully in the moment as opposed to just prescribing a response.
Right. And it's so tempting in this game to be like, I feel a vibe. As Mr. Like, what are they giving me? And I mental attach, I'll notice like, they're lifting their leg off the ground, just taking in one thing. It's hard to completely mimic every single thing that person is doing because you're a different person, you have a different line. There are a lot of things you have to do in the moment, right? But you're actively trying to take that person in, right? Yes. So we're going to now do another exercise around the circle that has a focus on tactics. So I'm guessing that, you all have a working definition of an objective, what you want from the other. I like to say what I want from the other character in the scene. And tactics are the how, the way we get what we want, those action verbs. So we're doing an exercise where we go around the circle, and we're going to start with,
Yes.
Yes, there are more. In the back there. I'm going to go down the line of the tactics, the left column. I'm going to accuse you. I'm going to accuse you, and I'm going to use the tactic to accuse while I say to accuse. And I'm going to watch how it lands on you. I'm going to see how it impacts you. You don't have to manufacture anything. I'm really going to try to accuse you and see how that, and then once you feel like you've been there for me as a scene partner, you're going to start a new scene with a new word.
Okay, got it.
All right, but be there for me. Look at me. Don't stare at the page. You know what I mean? Like, be there. That's it. To accuse. To alarm! To amaze!
To amuse. To befriend.
To blame.
You guys are doing such a great job, I don't need to make any adjustments. It's really annoying. A lot of times these students, though, don't want to turn away right away, right? Just think about needing to work even harder to try to make that impact on their scene partner so they can't. It's a physical response almost, right, from them? Because you're sitting there with your scene partner, you're really taking it in. It's awesome. Okay, go.
To beg.
To boss.
Yeah, like you're my principal there.
I am.
To belittle.
To bully. To calm.
To needle. To challenge.
And yes, you can off ramp if you want now at this point. You can go off into any column, anywhere you want. You don't have to go down the line.
Oh.
Now, starting now. It got ignited, and I'm just saying, let's run with it, let's go. Anywhere. You don't have to overthink, you can just pick the next word, it's fine. But if you want to go off ramp, you can.
Charm.
To excite.
To comfort.
Can you actually do to excite again? You didn't excite, try it again. Excite now. Okay. To excite, come on, let's go. To excite! Okay, next one, to excite now!
To demand.
To command.
Pester, to pester, to pester, to pester, to pester, to pester, to pester, to
To destroy.
All right, so now, first of all, I love you landing the tactic, really The first line is, I read your notebook, and the second is, you have no right. Okay? So that's your line. I read your notebook.
I read your notebook.
You have no right. I'm gonna whisper a tactic to you.
Okay.
Before you say your line.
Okay.
And before you speak, you're gonna whisper a tactic. Okay? Something from the list. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't pre-plan it. Don't pre-plan it. See what happens.
Okay.
Right before.
So he does it after that lands. Okay.
I read your notebook. And then get it.
You had no right.
Great. Okay, now we're gonna have you give the tactic, but you're gonna say it out loud so we can all hear it this time. You're just gonna see the difference in that. And Erin, you're gonna do the same here. I read your notebook.
I read your notebook.
You have no right. So nice and so we can all hear it. Don't overthink. Anything works. It'll be fun to try.
Read your notebook.
Two thread.
You have no right.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Now we're gonna try it where I read your notebook, you have no right. You're gonna start by giving Erin a tactic, but then you're just gonna respond organically. Okay, you're not gonna give the tactic.
I read your notebook. You had no right.
Great, awesome. So this is a way to like take these tactics and start to place them into the text, to use the tactics on the word, right? Landing the thought, thinking about how you're, what is the thing you say about like kind of pre-planning the whole scoring?
Scoring the scene like in advance. It's really hard to do that because you're not taking into account the fact that you're going to be acting with another person who might be doing something totally different than what you pre-planned.
So, rehearsal, and
right.
it's like, well, I played this. Why are you not doing the thing I played?
I think it's cool to do the first line, like I'm going to threaten on my first line, but then after that, you kind of got to be listening and responding to what happens to you and be open to wherever that takes you.
And if you're embodying tactics as warm-ups a lot, then they're gonna start to be, your students at yourselves, you're gonna start to be facile with the vocabulary of tactics, the options available to you. So you don't have to necessarily get intellectual about it all the time, right?
Yeah, and also just want to highlight just what happened with everyone as we went around. There was a physicality and a certain vocal quality that was married together to make these tactics land. And that just is going to happen. If you are doing a thing, your body's going to do something physical and your voice is going to do something. And that's all that needs to happen. Like no one is trying to generate emotions or anything. It's just like, if I'm threatening you, there's going to be a certain physicality in my body, and my voice is going to do something.
Yeah, like this,
Yeah.
or bullying, like that
Yeah.
physical-
Right. And that reads, we know what that is.
Yeah.
Because that's universal language
Yeah.
that we all understand as humans.
We're gonna now head into the text that we're gonna explore, the scene, because scene study, you need a scene,
All
right? Right? Okay, so I'll hand it out.
Okay.
And then,
So we can all sit down too, I guess. 'Cause this part. So, how do you decide what tactics you're going to use? You can't just create them randomly. I mean, you could, but they might not be telling the story. So you have to have some understanding of the context of the scene, right? Or the play that you're working on. So, fundamental thing that you got to do is get with your scene partner and read the scene and then answer some questions. We like to create a checklist. And some of the questions that might be on your checklist we've written here. I'm just going to bring this over here so everyone can see it. So, First thing, the given circumstances essentially is what this is. Oh, great, thank you. So, where are you? Sometimes with this scene that we have, it may not be clear. You might have to try to find context clues that'll tell you, or you might have to make something up. But in the context of the whole play, you would know. What is your relationship? I think it'll be pretty clear in this scene, but sometimes it's not if it's just a snippet. What do you want from each other? So that is the objective. What is the objective of your character's objective? What does your character need from the scene partner in this particular scene? There might be a super objective of the play, but within each scene there's going to be a specific thing that the character wants. And why do you want this? You need to be able to answer that question for yourself, for your character. What ignited this conflict between you? What is the thing that ignited the conflict in this scene? There might be an overarching conflict between these characters that is the super conflict for the play, but within the specific scene, there's something that has ignited the conflict of the scene. So what is that? What secrets are you holding? Maybe it's clear in there, maybe it's not. You might have to find some context clues. You might have to make it up if you don't have the whole play. What stands in your way? So that's the obstacle. When we talk about objectives and tactics, we also have to remember the third component, which is the obstacle. The thing that is kind of preventing you from getting what you want. And then what are the stakes? So another way to phrase that is, what happens if you don't get what you want? So it would be great if you could find a scene partner, someone to work on this scene with. I'll give you 3 seconds to find a scene partner right now. And here we go, and 1, 2, and 3. Everyone's paired up. Is there odd person? Do we have? Does everyone have a partner? Is there anyone without a partner? Is there anyone without a partner? No? Okay. Well, you don't have a partner. So one of us can. Okay. So before you start working on it, let me give you your marching orders. I'll put this back here. So again, first thing I would say do is read the scene together and then go through and try to answer as many of these questions as you can, okay? And let's just review them one more time. Where are you? What's your relationship? What do you want from each other? Why do you want this? What ignited this conflict in this particular scene? What secrets are you holding? What stands in your way of getting what you want? And what are the stakes? What will happen if you do not get what you want? All right? Have at it.
interesting because a lot of times we go down the list, and I think it's interesting to go like, well, what question was the first question you found like kind of easy to respond to? Like you're like, I know that one. Can someone name a question where you're like, I know the answer? The relationship. So what's the relationship?
Mother.
Mother-daughter. And let's delve a little deeper. What do we know about that relationship? So it's like, I know it's a mother-daughter. That's the thing I know. But what else do you know?
A strange parent and child.
Right. Strange parent and child, yeah.
Seems like an adult child.
It's like an adult child. Yes, yes. Okay, this is where I know the play, of course, right? So, 26 Miles, which actually was adapted into a musical called Miss You Like Hell, starring Daphne Rubin-Vega as Beatrice. When I didn't know when we picked this scene, we didn't know that Daphne was going to be joining us, so I was kind of crazy that she's downstairs right now. She was fabulous as Beatrice, and that very wonderful musical. So she is a teenager, in fact, Olivia.
Because she's worried that she might be pregnant.
Right. So there's contradictory. What was the clue that made you feel there is a clue in there that makes you feel she's older? What is it?
She said I've written a magazine.
Right. Yeah. It's like youth magazines and stuff, right? Poetry magazines. So teenage daughter. They've been estranged. What was a question on here that was really hard? Like I don't know. I can't tell.
Where is
Where are they?
Right, same place, yeah.
Right, so you have to read the play to know. And that is probably the number one challenge I hear about teachers going like, they won't read the play. But the information I think is interesting because whose turf you're on, I think is really interesting. So if you have like a scene
That's all about power.
yeah, right? Like whose turf are you on? So the context of the scene is Beatrice has taken Olivia on a road trip, a summer road trip, okay, from New York to Los Angeles. Now, I may be remembering the locations from the musical. I can't remember. I'm like those are conflating in my mind right now. But they're in the midst of a road trip, so they're like in the car in this scene, right? So
Who's driving?
Mom is driving. I think they've gotten out at this point. Like they've had some difficulty with the car. You know what I mean? They're like, there's some roadside trouble, and
I
they're
thought
out.
maybe they're like in the diner and she swiped her book when she went to the bathroom.
Right. So I read your notebook. So she's been writing in this notebook, and it's like a diary, right?
Yeah.
So that is an important part of the information, right? They haven't seen each other in a really long time. Okay. What's a question here that you feel like I have a stab at this one, but I don't know?
What is the conflict? I mean, clearly it's reading the diary, but why does she even say, I read your diary? What happened right before?
Oh,
What's the-
I
what is
love that.
Exactly.
Moment before, questioning the moment before, that's fantastic. But yes, not overthinking it. What ignites this conflict in the scene is I read your notebook.
But I will just say, that is another question you can put on the checklist,
Yes.
which is what just happened the moment before.
Why did she say it? Why would you come forward with that? Right? Which is a clue to what they want from each other. So if I read your notebook is the inciting moment for the conflict, and hers, you have no right, what can that tell you about what they want from each other? Yeah.
She wants insight into her life that
Right.
she's not had for unhonorable years, and she's not willing to give it yet.
Yeah.
She's not willing to let her in. Right?
Yeah, I don't want to
I
ask
said from the list, like she wants to mother.
to mother. Yeah. I want to be your mom again. I want to be your mom. I want you to let me in. I want you to give me the information I need. I want to be your mom again. The secret that you can't know from this scene is that mom is taking her on this trip across to Los Angeles so her daughter can testify in her trial so she can stay in the country. And she needs to bond with her so that her testimony will mean something.
I was gonna say, she seems very stuck. She's the mom. She seems like
Yeah.
she can't.
She's withholding
Yeah,
information.
something.
She's not ready to
Right.
give that information to her daughter yet. She's afraid she's going to lose her, which speaks to the stakes, right? So, but is there a secret in there for Olivia that you were able to discern? Something kind of bubbles up out of her in the scene, yeah?
I'm curious, this was here, she's a writer.
Yeah.
Okay, so something about, what is this really about? Is this the fact that you've neglected my writing for all of these years, and this
Oh, yes, no, I think it's a deeper wound than that, you know, than just the writing. It's like, you can't, it's too late to be my mom.
Well, it's also
You don't have a right to parent me anymore.
the abandonment because who keeps a log of how many times the parent is actually called? That means that she wanted it, but now she can't allow herself to want it.
So you're talking about your objective, what you want, I want to show you. You have lost your right to parent me. My internal obstacle is, but
I wish I had my mom.
I want my mommy.
Yeah.
Those two things are in opposition. I think if you think of those things as the same, that's more about motivation. I want you back as my mom because I love you. That's a motivation. An internal obstacle is running up against what you want, right? So I want to show you, you can't be my mom anymore. You have no right. And I want my mommy. Two different things. You are my daughter. I get to say, but what's Beatrice's internal obstacle?
I need you.
Well, that's her motivation. Oh, right. Her secret, right? Yeah.
She wants penance, she wants forgiveness.
She wants forgiveness, but she's guilty. She feels guilty too, right? So that stuff that's running up against that gooey stuff, but I feel guilty, but I miss you, but I love you, that runs up against, and that's the number one thing when we're coaching, when we're directing, we're trying to get actors to not just ride that obstacle, play the objective, and let the obstacle pop out when it's time in the text, rather than playing the whole scene like, right? Why did you do that? Why did the whole scene is about the obstacle? You want to play that objective. Other information about what are the stakes. We know now from The Secret what the stakes are for Beatrice. Like if she loses her daughter, but she also could lose this case. And the reason she wants to stay is for her daughter, right? So what about Olivia? Do you have a sense of what the stakes are for her? I realize it's very open.
It kind of feels like an ultimatum. Like, it feels like make or break with this woman. She's at the age now where she can just be like, I'm over. Like, I'm over it. Like, this is it. And she's calling her out, right? She says the things she clearly never said. She's like, you were in court. You never fought for me. What on earth were you doing? You're, right? It's like all the things. So it feels like this is the moment of like, if you don't say the right thing, you are not my mother anymore. So she's like, despite her internal obstacle, as we've said.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it this way, but I think it could be too that when you confront someone, you could find out something you don't want to know. Why didn't you fight for me? She'd be because I don't love you. Yeah. The stakes are high. If like you call someone out, say, why'd you do that? Do you even love me? Someone could be like, no.
You moved on and so did I last line. I feel like is revealing about Olivia. She's
Yes.
like, it's like almost a threat. Like,
Yeah.
I'm over it.
She
And
can
she's
get
not, but like,
Yeah.
she wants to be.
Question.
Exactly.
So Beatrice is not a citizen.
She is not a citizen.
So that last line that Olivia says is going to hit differently for her.
Yes.
But the one right before that, and you became a citizen and didn't fight for me, she has to decide whether she's going to tell them what's going on or not.
And you moved on so nice. They're like on the road too. So it's not like she can just be like, they're like, she's stuck with her. She doesn't have a driver's license. Like, what am I gonna do? You know? Yeah.
Can I just ask how old Olivia is specifically? Only because I think that sometimes when you're talking about a teenager too, like often
She's a teenager.
they're
She's
not as
16, yeah.
aware of what the stakes are and how big those stakes are, you know, versus like, it almost feels like she, in this, just wants to like get back in the monkey moment,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But then there is that bigger stake of like, if this relationship isn't fixed, then like you live with a hole in your heart for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But I think that that's sort of a weird thing as an actor of like,
Yeah.
how much can you play when the character's not really fully aware of that yet?
Yeah. Totally, that thing. I think when teenagers look at this scene, they're like, where am I? Notebook. They're like, got it. So, cool. So we're gonna do, using this, we're gonna do an exercise.
So it's, you know, we really broke down the scene, analyzed it, get a clear understanding, which we all have now. But we have an intellectual understanding of what's happening in the scene, right? But now we have to do it. And we were talking earlier about how it's not necessarily a great idea to score your scene with the tactics that you think you're going to play. It's a good idea to understand how tactics are effective and used, but you can't sort of pre-plan. So this is a great game that we use in rehearsal sometimes to get at listening and responsiveness. And it's basically a repetition game. So can we have 2 volunteers who would be willing to sit down in these chairs and read the scene for us? 1, it doesn't have to be 2. Great. All right. So yeah, decide who's going to be who. So basically the way this game works is you are going to be tasked with repeating the last word or words of your cue that you hear before you speak. You're going to repeat those words as if they are a part of your text. Really try to stick to 1 word, no more than 3. 2 or 3. But really, if 1 word will do it, use that 1 word. And you're going to repeat that out loud before you say your text. And so the first person has a scene, the first line of the scene doesn't have anything to say. But after that first line, we want to repeat back out loud. And we really want to invest in the repetition of that phrase. And try not to look at your scripts. Try to just listen, hear the cue, repeat it, then find what you need to say on the page. Okay? Let's give it a try.
I'm so lost.
Sorry, so you're going to repeat back the last word or words of your cue, the thing that you heard that you're responding to. So, what's the first one?
Devin.
We could do a quick example.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That might be helpful.
Does someone want to take my spot?
I'll take it.
Great.
So you're perfect now.
Hey.
No, I don't think that's text, just a textual.
No, I'm just All right. I read your note.
Notebook. You have no right.
All right. I thought you were pregnant.
You're pregnant. Wow. It's just really weird because you haven't read any of my magazines. So I figured you weren't interested in my writing.
Right? I was looking for anything. A clue.
A clue. And it's also weird because if you want to know what's going on in my life, you can pick up the phone, dial a number, and ask me, "How are you doing, Olivia? How was your day today?"
Today. This month has been extremely difficult. I mean, I know I've been a stranger.
Extremely difficult. Stranger. 5 months. You called me on my birthday, 9:30 at night. That's the last time we spoke. I keep a log. I've kept it for 3 years. You want to know the exact number? How many times you've called me in these last 3 years?
3 years. Olivia, I go to sleep every night wishing I could call you.
Go to sleep. Every night.
Cool. All right. Good. Good. Can you talk about what the experience of that was doing that game?
Yeah, I was. I think just like listening and just like being available to Jard, and like I wasn't expecting. I don't know. It made sense after I had said we're pregnant. It just like made sense. I wasn't connecting it to what I was gonna say, but like I was like mocking him in a way, and then it just like I don't know, like just kind of. You know, it wasn't planning in a way. It was just like keeping it kind of like open and just going, just like listening to him and going, and then just picking a word. It didn't have to be the last word exactly, but like maybe something that connected to that character because we had just done that analysis of like who these people
that
are.
responsiveness, you were listening and then the response is happening organically without you calculating or planning it. And yeah, the tactics were happening without them being sort of like crafted. Just like communication was happening. Yes.
Well, yeah, it's cool because it keeps you honest, especially kind of being unfamiliar with the script. A lot of times when you're unfamiliar with the script, you want to have your face, you want to make sure you get your line. You're thinking about you. But this kept you honest. It's like, okay, I can relax. I know what I don't need to know what line is because you're going to give it to me, and I'm going to realize my perspective of you and can build my connection with you just off of the way I say it. And I don't know how I'm going to say it, but look into your eyes, take in a person, and hey.
And just like that freedom of like, just let go of the script was really kind of freeing too, like just listening to it.
Exactly. This is actually a gift.
Yeah.
Some observations.
I find it interesting because I thought it was more natural when you were doing that, and I always start with my students with improv, because if I'm going to give them a text, they're either overacting, underacting, or they have anxiety about how they're reading it. So I just thought it made it organic, and I thought also certain areas made the writing better for me. It enhanced the writing and the relationship.
It's almost like
Something to practice as a playwright too, when you're writing.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. And sometimes it just seems like that repetition could have been a part of the text, right?
Absolutely.
It just seemed
It
like
made the text
appropriate.
better.
And also, I think if you do this exercise with your students, like it's okay for it to become a big mess. As long as they're being free and responsive, it doesn't matter if it's appropriate. That's not maybe how the scene is going to play once it's rehearsed up and ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a way of discovering, it's a way of cultivating the sense of being responsive and listening.
Yep.
I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about it too was that whatever that word was that you repeated, I could almost like figure out exactly what the tactic was just with that word. And I think oftentimes when you do this kind of work with students, where you're like exploring it, trying to break it down, they really struggle with like, I don't know what the right word is, I can't find it. And I can see doing this activity and then sort of breaking it down with the observers, right?
Yes.
So what did you hear in that word? What is the tactic? And giving them sort of some ideas to run with.
That's great, because we're always looking for ways to engage the full class, right? It's like, let's have the actors organically respond, actively pursue, as long as they're like rooted in their objective, actively pursue. Let's name it and let's go back and see if you can, play it with a lower intention,
Yeah, that's great because like a student might not know the word that they want to use, but if they just do it, because we've already discovered actions are physical, something is going to happen if they're doing this game, and whether they know what that actual word for that action was, they did it, they experienced it.
What were the directions for this again?
It was just repeating the cue, and you don't,
Repeating the cue.
the thing is, it should really just be one word, no more than 3. You don't want to repeat the whole line, because then you'll lose that sense of responsiveness. It's just like repeat the word, the last word you heard, or the last
Got it.
2 or 3 words that you heard. Yeah. I want to give everyone an opportunity to do that, so let's get with your partner and read through the scene again, doing this repetition game.
Really? Keeping connected with your partner.
I would say too, it's even though the context of the scene is that they're in a car, it's kind of fun to do this game standing up, so you'll be a little more energized and not kind of
Also,
like.
they're car broke down.
Yeah, and so then you can find your own voice in the space.
Really weird.
Olivia, I go to sleep every
We're gonna do another game with the time that we have. This is a game that really sort of helps to focus in on this idea of seeing how the thing that you're doing is landing, which is another way to determine what the next tactic is. Not on the intellectual level, but just on a level of being responsive, being in the moment, seeing how the thing is landing, and then what are you gonna do next? Is it really working? Do you double down on the thing that you're doing because it's working? Or do you need to change tactic because it is not having any effect? All right, so can we have the two more volunteers of Beatrice? Yes? And Olivia? Great, and you need, you want to switch? You can switch, is that okay?
Yeah.
You mind playing the other side? Okay. All right, and you need something to write with too. You need a pencil or a pen? You need a pen? I'll give you one. So this is a really simple game that we play. After each, so we're going to throw away the repetition now. Reading the scene. You want to be really looking at your partner when you say your line to see how it lands. And then you're just going to score that moment with on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 meaning that didn't have any effect. 10 meaning extremely effective. And then let that be your guide for how you then pursue the next moment you have.
So you write it down next to the
Write it down in the margin on your page.
So she's gonna say a line and then I'm gonna write down a score.
The person speaking is going to score how the person speaking scores how the thing
Okay, so
lands.
I don't score when she's speaking.
Yeah.
I score myself when I'm speaking.
Yes, you're looking for the response.
You get the answer by watching your scene partner. Okay, it landed, yep, nailed it, 10.
How is the scene going for you?
Oh,
All right. Whenever you're ready.
I read your notebook.
You have no right.
I thought you were pregnant.
Wow. It's just really weird because you haven't read any of my magazines. So I figured you weren't interested in my writing.
I was looking for anything. A clue.
And it's also weird because if how was your day today?
This month has been extremely
So let's pause. I just want to remind you to stay in the game and keep score. How's it going for you?
It's hard, I can't tell.
Yeah. So give yourself permission to like say the thing, watch how it lands on her, and then give it a score. In this game, we want to like. It's not so much about how well are we acting the scenes, but like literally how is the thing I just said.
Right, I'm looking, I know, I'm not sure.
And if you're not,
Is it 1 to 10 or 1 to 5?
1 to 10.
1 to 10.
And if you don't know, then maybe that's a lower score than if you
Yeah.
really know. You know.
I find myself wanting to get her next line to know how well it's
That's fine. I saw you do that.
You know,
really-
yeah.
The response started to happen,
I
and
feel
then
like
that's when
her
you wrote.
response is gonna come
Yeah,
in her
exactly.
next line.
Yeah,
you know?
I saw that happening.
Yeah.
That's
That's-
when you see the answer, you need to take
Yeah.
the note. Yeah. Yeah. It may be as soon as you say the line, there's a facial expression that tells you something. It may be when they speak. It, you know, it may be while you're speaking, something is happening with them that gives you.
Remember that moment around the circle where we're doing the verbs and to excite, and it's like the land, like I'm not landing it. I'm not getting through. I'm not exciting this person, right? Like that kind of like, how would you score yourself on that? It's like, am I breaking?
Yeah,
through?
it's
You
kind of
know?
like really know, you know. I don't know. I feel like I know when I hit it.
You know? And how does that impact you when you're landing? Like, I'm landing this.
Before I was like 3, I was stumbled into my chair.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So like, don't be afraid to play. So like, let me go too far. Let's see. I want to land this thing.
Okay.
Get up wherever you
This month has been extremely difficult. I know I've been a stranger.
You called me on my birthday, 9:30 at night. That's the last time we spoke. I keep a log. I've kept it for 3 years. You want to know the exact number? How many times have you called me in the past 3 years? Olivia, I go to sleep every night wishing I could talk to you. Then, why is it so hard to dial 7 numbers on a phone? You want to know what's in my head? Why didn't you fight for me? The woman who screams and yells. In court, you just sat there. You were so polite. You were polite.
Is that what Aaron told you?
I was there, Mom.
A lot happened behind closed doors. Aaron had his own way of fighting. He hit below the belt.
You fought for me.
I wasn't an American citizen, Olivia. Your father held it over my head. If they deported me, would that make you happy?
After you became a citizen, did you fight then? You moved on. And so did I.
this game is challenging, but what it does force you to do is to really like stay connected and check in with the person that you're working with. And forces you to like take stock of how things are going in the moment, right? And that was happening. Maybe where you rose, like, not have been consistent, but like you were constantly checking in with each other. That was clear, and that was powerful. How did that feel?
It's good, yeah. I mean, yeah, building on the other game that we did, it's forcing you to just be, as you said, more with your partner.
It forced me to work harder to get a reaction.
Yeah. When you coach to like, well then try harder. If you're not getting something, then I felt like that made me change what I wanted about other people.
When you don't get what you want, you double down, you go further, you destroy, you demand, you destroy, or you switch, right? Or you try something else. If it's really not landing, like, okay, I'm gonna beg. Okay, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like part of Olivia's journey is she's starting to see it's making an impact. That's why she keeps going on that tear about the log.
It made me really notice how many fewer lines Beatrice has.
Yes.
That everything that she says is actually really short.
Partly because of her secret.
Yeah.
Any observations here?
I love the way you actually, because when I first read this, I thought there was a lot of like yelling moments. I'm a mother myself. I have 11-year-old preteen hormones, but like you have those moments where you do yell as a mother. But I just love the way you particularly had those moments where it could have been a really, a moment to scream, but she said it in this tone that was really interesting, and it was very natural.
Yeah.
And the way you responded was very natural too.
I think that comes from being present. And
Yeah.
if you read it
Like not having to
yourself, you're like,
overlap,
oh,
not
I'm
having
screaming.
to, you know what I mean?
Right, but the
Like
scream
the
doesn't
subtext.
come, right, because it's like in this moment being present with each other.
Yeah, the subtext is real. Like there's a lot of subtext to be in.
A lot of listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to shift into now. Thank you again for stepping in. Shift into reflection. No, we're not ending. Okay. I just want to make sure we have a moment of reflection. We're going to do a two-phase reflection. You're going to spend like 60 seconds talking to each other about takeaways, and then maybe we'll popcorn share a couple out to the full. Takeaways from this workshop, what you're going to bring into the work, your work as an artist, your work as a teacher. Turn and talk, please. And then we'll ask in like a minute for you to share a couple of things. Turn to your neighbor.
I just think this focus on staying present and really listening to each other as scene partners is important, and then maybe in focusing on staying present, then maybe we could identify together as a class, or, you know, the students could identify what their tactics are, rather than pre-planning. I'm gonna throw away the pre-planning.
Yes, one or two more takeaways? Yeah.
I really appreciated the simplicity. Like we said, the cue repetition exercise, even the list of tactics that we did in the warm-up. I think would be very easy and effective to implement on like multiple layers.
Yeah.
The exercise where we bridged from just doing the tactics, like to a cue, to a maze, to the text where you had us just do the first two lines. Going around the circle, I feel like it's a really great bridge to with the kids. You often have done activities like the first one and like the second one, but that bridge is where the kids often get lost in like, but how do I connect being able to a cue to doing it with the text?
Doing it with the text, yeah. I love taking a couple of really super simple lines from the scene and, you know, sort of teaching them before getting into the text with anything with Shakespeare, something that's like I read your notebook, you have the right kind of text that you can memorize on the fly. We want to thank you so much for participating in the workshop.